that. I'm like, oh, cool, Lacey's releasing a new album. She just sent out something to everyone on her mailing list. And I opened the email, and she's explaining what's going on, and I realized, oh, this is actually addressed to me individually. And she's like, I want to do an album release party on your stream. I'm like, yeah, let's go. Now I'm reading the email some more. She's like, I actually want to perform the whole album on stream. I'm like, oh man, I need to get that Vince McMahon meme ready. But I'm stoked because you've been working on this for a while. You've been kicking a lot of ass on YouTube, Lacey. And you do a lot of Persona stuff in general, right?
I do. It's one of my favorite franchises. So this album was definitely a very logical like evolution from just doing videos for it. And it got to the point where we'd already made 8 Persona 4 videos and kind of was like, you know, a couple more and that's a record. So let's just do a couple more. And so here we are. So that was kind of the evolution of it, was I just kept going with it, and it turned into an album. So haha.
I have Alyssa on here because she's the Persona expert of Ongaku Overdrive, like those stuff we did for Whims of Fate, all the artwork for that, and also tonight's show. She did that, and she put a lot of heart and love into it. So I figured from the Persona game standpoint, she'd be able to talk to you, but I've never played a single Persona game in my life. I will admit that right now. However, I love the music of Persona, which I think the sign that a game soundtrack is truly amazing is that even if you've never played the game, you can still enjoy the music for what it is. Lacey, what are your favorite things about the Persona series in general that inspired you to make so much music based on it?
Oh man. Okay, it's a few things. What initially drew me in, Persona 5 was the first one I played. And what initially drew me in was the animation style was really cool because it was anime art in a 3D style, which I hadn't seen before. So that was a really neat kind of one of its kind thing. And then I look back and it's like, oh, there's a lot more Persona games and Shin Megami Tensei and a lot of other things by the same developer. And it became a very dark hole from there. So I played all the Persona 5 games. And my friend, and my friend Legendav was the one who his favorite game is Persona 4, and he was publicly tweeting when Atlas just surprisingly like dropped Persona 4 on Steam. He was like, "Who's never played it? I will literally send this game to you right now." And so he sent me a copy because I'd never played, and I became obsessed because it's outstanding. The gameplay is addictive. It has kind of the collecting atmosphere of a Pokemon game that a lot of us like, with the RPG elements, the JRPG too. So there's a lot more than just surface level with Persona games, which is something I like. It's presented in a really palatable way, but it deals with a lot of real issues and a lot of socio commentary. Specifically in Japanese culture, but I'd say the English adaptions are very good in terms of translating easily to real world situations, which I always like a game that makes you think. And Persona 4 specifically really has left quite an impact on me. Not even just the music, but the story is about loving the worst parts of yourself. That's kind of the underlying theme throughout the game, and learning to accept and love and own the worst parts and best parts of yourself, because those are all kind of what makes us people. And I mean, just a video game makes you think about those concepts. So it's been a very transformative game for me in many different ways. But like, the music is so great in a way that you can't stop thinking about it. Or if you're me, you cover most of the soundtrack because you can't stop thinking about it. But, you know, I mean, they're fun songs to work on. Even like most of this album was recorded in less than a 6-month period because I just could not stop. I made presets and I made templates to follow, and I just kind of went through my favorite songs. They weren't necessarily the most popular, but they were songs that I really wanted to make. So, I mean, this is kind of one of those series and soundtracks where no matter what you like in a video game, there's something for you in it. They are big time commitments. So it's a series that I understand if people haven't beaten a lot of them. I've only beaten 2 all the way through. So it's like, I get it, because there are a lot. There, they can be 100+ hour JRPGs, so
Wow.
it's a commitment.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
easily.
I think for Persona 5, when I went through the first time, it was like, and I didn't want to like zoom through it, right? But I think
Yeah.
it was like 150 hours by the
Yeah.
end of it. I was like,
Me
oh
too.
no, what have I done? Like I totally get it. Like it's not like the amount of time that you put into making the
Mhm.
album, like you put more time into the game.
Oh, easily.
You know?
Easily. Yeah. I've thought about that too, because normally a song will take me to record between like eight's probably the fastest I've recorded one of these, 8 hours. And then probably the longest would be like, I don't know, probably close to 24 hours total in a session. So it's like, no matter what, that's still not a full playthrough of, Persona 5 Royal, for example, which
Oh
is
my
even
gosh,
longer.
yeah.
So it's like, how you choose to spend your time, and again, an
Yeah.
idea from Persona. How do you want to spend your time that you have? So
It's such a fun like time management thing that
It
it's almost
is.
like you also have to time manage to put your time management simulator, like real
Yeah.
life being an adult simulator. Like you have to adult to put that in, you know?
Oh, the Virgo in me thrives from a game that makes me manage my time and relationships into my
Gosh.
real life managing of time and relationships. It's
Yeah,
like,
and
oh,
like quantifiable, like, oh,
Yeah.
this is the level that I'm at right now. The Virgo
Yeah.
in me also enjoys that as well.
I know. It makes sense that we share this bond. Alyssa and I have the same
Yes.
birthday, in case
Yes.
you guys didn't know.
That warmed the cockles in my heart. So I was looking up upcoming Facebook birthdays, and you had already performed at our July show, The Whims of Fate, a Persona themed event we had here in Orlando, Florida.
Hell yeah.
And then I saw you guys had birthdays coming up on the same day. I'm like, oh crap, I gotta wish them both the same birthday, because Alyssa and Lacey have a bond of being the Squid Sisters. The reason we have the
That's right.
whole Squid Squad is because
right.
during a virtual Ongaku show, I think the first one we had Lacey on, we had our Lacey on virtual Ongaku 2, which you can watch on our YouTube channel. And during the show, Lacey and Alyssa just started busting out all those squid emojis that you guys see in the chat. And it just turned into a thing, and then it became a thing every show that we did. So I was like, all right, there's something to this. So we're doing this live show at Lacey, and I'm like, oh man, we gotta have a Squid Squad t-shirt. Like half the
Hell
people
yeah.
at the show won't get it, but everyone else will be cool.
They will learn. They will learn to
Yeah.
know. The squid is a state of being.
Yes.
Mhm.
Now it's like
Absolutely.
part of the Ongaku Overdrive brand.
I'm
Be
glad.
like, we are all Squidsters, you know? Like deep down
We
in
are
our hearts.
Yes. Squibblings, we're all Squid family. We're all here.
Squid
It's
family.
So I want to talk
So-
about the album creation process, because you have a whole YouTube thing as well where you're making songs, you're transcribing songs, but there's also YouTube videos that you're releasing as well, near weekly, like a lot, which is pretty common amongst the BGM communities this past year or so. So what's your whole like scheduling and creative process to putting together your videos, and how that ties into this album?
So the Persona 4 videos have undoubtedly been some of Peter Hardy, my visual art everything. He does all of the visuals for the channel. He edits, he films. He's kind of our visual master. He is the visual master. I'm not at all. But the Persona 4 videos have definitely been, I think, some of our favorites to make. Peter has hand drawn and animated everything you see in those videos. And I mean, they're so impressive. I really think he just nails the vibe every time, recreating like an anime opening kind of feel to it. And then the fun ones, like we started with Reach Out to the Truth and Time to Make History, the battle themes, like those were really fun just to put together in general. Like I don't ever think about it when I'm recording the song. I guess now we kind of have an association where it's like, okay, well, we're doing Persona 4, so it's probably going to be a green screen video or something with a lot of visual elements to it. That's just kind of been the habit that we've fallen into, much to Peter's green screen chagrin. It's been really fun to make them, though, because, I try my best to put together a look or a style that I want to go for the video. Subtle cosplays or just even something to kind of draw into a Persona game or a JRPG game in general. And they just kind of happen. I mean, like I said, it takes me between like 8 and I'll just say 24 because your affection took a long time, but like between 8 and 24 hours for me to record everything between vocals and mastering and all that. And then, you know, to film everything usually takes us between like probably like 3 to 4 hours ish per video. And then editing, God bless. Sometimes it takes days, specifically too, just for like rendering and getting a lot of especially now we're in 4K, so a lot of more pixels to work into our green screen can be a little challenging. But overall, you know, I mean, it's kind of insane the output that Peter and I do, just the two of us, because it is just the two of us doing all of this. And I think that's the reason why we can output in such a way, just because, you know, usually we'll do one video at a time. There's been exceptions this year where I'm collaborating maybe on a few different channels and we're working on stuff for this channel. And then that kind of becomes a gambit of like, okay, well, we want to keep the visual effects one heavy for Persona, so then let's make everything else a little easier to edit for other channels. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, we definitely crank out videos pretty quickly just with our workflow that we have. But the Persona videos have been a lot of fun. They've been very creative, I think. We both love Persona, so it makes us inspired to take a little more cinematic challenge to it, or make the effects ourselves. I just am here. I'm the face. That's it.
Well,
and Peter's the genius behind the visuals. So
the other crazy thing is you're recording all the instruments for these tracks. Like you're a one-woman band when you're Lacey Johnson. So how hard is it to figure all that out?
Usually pretty intuitive. I always start with a rhythm section, so I'll always record drums first. Because that helps me arrange everything in terms of, okay, do I want to add another section? This is what it's going to be. Percussion, then I'll kind of track all the stringed instruments, and then suddenly things are kind of already taking shape. So generally when I cover something, though, before I even start, I have an idea of how everything's going to kind of take place. I'm fortunate that my brain is like a squid in that it literally can think of all those elements at the same time. So, you know, once I've settled in on, okay, this is my drum beat, this is my arrangement, let's kind of go off and see how everything else is going to come together. And it does. I mean, I'm very proud of my workflow. I worked for years to get it to the place it is now. So it didn't just happen right away, everybody. It took a lot of experimentation and saving my sounds that I like and saving full channel strip settings in my programs. But yes, it is all me. And all the backing tracks you hear when I perform live, those are all of my stems as well. And I'm proud of that too. I mean, that kind of was the whole idea behind the YouTube channel initially, because I saw a lot of my peers doing the same thing and I was so impressed. And I said, well, you know, I could try it. I'll try and make videos like that. Like, why not? Let's give it a shot. I think of drums sometimes and I could do that. And so it's obviously evolved, and a lot of experience has been a great teacher in that way as well, because I've learned what works, what kind of sounds I like, and, you know, everything kind of falls into place when you know exactly how you want to structure a song. I did want to tell this little story about Your Affection on this album. I just dropped this video today too. Your Affection was the hardest song I did on this album. And the reason is that I'd heard a bunch of covers of it. I had heard a lot of MIDI arrangements. I found sheet music. I kind of like done the whole gambit in terms of my research. And I could not decide for the life of me how I wanted to do this song, because it's interesting. It's very different than the rest of the soundtrack. I'd say it's very poppy, and not necessarily in a Persona poppy way, but almost more in like a mainstream poppy way. And that was a challenge for me, just because I couldn't rely on guitars or a lot of the normal rock instrumentation that I can do for Persona. I had to really think outside the box for that one. So I started and stopped that session 4 different times. And I scrapped like 3 or 4 different times and started over. And the version that it is now, which is very heavily inspired by Steve Miller, Fly Like an Eagle, by the way. But that version was recorded in 2 hours, the whole thing.
Wow.
So that's one of those occasions where I suddenly had exactly the sounds I wanted, and I knew how I was going to do it, and it just kind of came together, obviously, very quickly. And I was like, I sat there when I finished the track, and I went, "Oh my god, this like this is something I have failed at so many times, and I was able to start it again and finish it." So that one's,
Like
it
almost
happens to me too.
Yeah, I mean, like it makes sense though, because like your affection in general, like I think the Persona 4 is very like, it just gives me like, it's fun and a little funky, but it like gives me more pop vibes, like in comparison to Persona 5. Like, and I also wanted to ask a little bit about like when you have these games that have these very distinct styles, like they're from the same composer, right?
Yeah, they're all Shoji Meguro.
Yeah, but like they have such different elements to each one to like really define, like that. Do you feel like that sort of like gets, I don't want to say like interferes, but like that affects sort of like type of instrumentation and the type of structure you do? Like, do you find it easier if it's like closer to like the, I guess like the rock type of vibe, like, or your stuff, I guess?
Yes, absolutely. The arrangement style definitely matters. Persona 5 is completely different than Persona 4 in every single way. Persona 3 is extremely different than 4 and 5. It's amazing how one composer can write in such versatile styles, and yet there's so many signatures Meguro does that are Persona, and I hear it in every soundtrack. But then he'll go with something, totally different feeling. Like 3 is super hip hop feeling with Lotus Juice on the soundtrack, and 4 is very poppy. 5 is very jazzy. So it's really interesting how every single thing can have its own feeling, yet there's so much that can bring it together and have kind of this synergy with especially instrumentation. Like with 5, whenever I'm working on something from 5, I have to have a lot of 70s production. So I have to do a lot of strings and horns, which aren't necessarily as prevalent in 4. 4 does have some elements to it. And 3 actually does too, but it's so funny how all 3 can be the same, but so different. I actually like it though. I like having distinct styles to kind of aim toward with my production, because then I know it's like, okay, if you nail these string feeling or these backing vocals, he's very, very uniform in vocals. So that helps with producing them. But I was like, if you can nail the feeling and the drive that these instruments have, it'll feel like the original. So that's always my goal. Not necessarily to sound like the original, but to have the same feeling and intention as the original. I do like it though. It's almost like a puzzle. I want to find all the pieces and put them together, and then it'll have Persona feeling. And that's always kind of my goal with covers in general.
Out of 3, 4, and 5, like in terms of the musical styles, like do you have a favorite?
4, absolutely.
Really?
Yeah. I really like 3, and I've started delving into the soundtrack of 3 a lot more, and there may, wink wink, be some covers coming, wink wink, very soon. 4 is just, I don't know, something about all of the songs really, really hit me. I love 5. I listen to it all the time, but covering 5 was a lot harder than covering 4 has been. Like, maybe the vocals are just a little closer to my register and my timbre, but that I love 4 so much.
I also feel like 4 is closer to your musical style already with the instruments that you use, especially the keytar, so I think that works pretty well for what you do.
Yeah, definitely. It's been fun to translate a lot of the keys lines for keytar. Really, really fun to do that.
It's an album that you have out now, and it's cool because you have it on Spotify, but now you can actually buy it on Bandcamp. What's really cool is you guys can order the actual physical CD. Is this a first time for you, Lacey?
Yes, I've never done it before, and it's very scary, and I hope that you like them all because I think it's awesome. CDs has been something I didn't think anyone would want. I don't know, because we're in this streaming world now, but every opportunity I've had to perform somewhere, people ask, do you have CDs? What do you have? Like, are there USBs or what? I was like, really? People still want these? I'm so glad. I buy CDs still. I'm one of those people, but I'm so glad people want them, and we have people have been buying them today, which I'm really glad about. But we ordered, I know, but we ordered 100 initially, so it is a limited pressing for now. We could potentially order more in the future, but it does take a minute. So if you want one, don't hesitate. I would definitely order ASAP, because that's the way to be sure you get one.
Yeah, I need to get on that. Actually, I didn't know it was going to be so limited, so I will be making sure I get the CD. So I'd love to have that in my collection of albums. Hell yes. So, what was your favorite song? Like, you were talking like pieces, like putting together pieces, and how much you enjoy that. What was like your favorite song to perform on this album?
Oh,
got her.
If you have a top three, that always works for me.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. So many of these were really close together too. So I'm trying to really isolate which ones came together really well. Reach Out to the Truth has some of my favorite vocal harmonies I've written, because I actually wrote a lot of the lines in there too. Your Affection, kind of similar vibes, only because that one was such like a puzzle for such a long time, and it didn't want to make sense in my brain. So figuring that out was really nice. That was the last song I finished too. And Pursuing My True Self. That one, I had so much fun making that track. I literally used a clav sample called Funk You Up for that song.
That's
so
literally
when you hear, so when you hear, which is the opening track on the album, when you hear Pursuing My True Self and you hear that, that is called Funk You Up. And I want it to funk all y'all up, because it's great.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah.